Alex, we didn't have a show on Friday because at around midnight on Thursday night, I determined I could not do a show on Friday.
I mean, if you're gonna cancel a show at the very last second, I have to imagine that was probably the best possible time to do it, right? Like at the midnight before, just saying, I can't do this. It's just too early. I just can't do
I
this.
couldn't. I was sitting on my friend's couch, and it was, it was a long week. There was a lot going on. Obviously, I flew out to San Francisco to be with the guys for the streams and the launches of both those machines, and it combined that with like having not been in San Francisco for like 4 or 5 months, trying to catch up with all these friends and going out. It's just Thursday night. I was only gonna have the energy for that stream, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So I apologize for the unannounced nature of that, but at least we had an 8-hour live stream to make up for it.
No, see, it worked out in my favor because I had like 2 reviews to write that day, and there was news going on while you were on the live stream and all that other stuff. So I actually had enough time to get my work done because I had that extra like hour and a half of time just to do other things. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and of course, as I sit here saying like, "Woe is me," I canceled the morning show. We were joined by Dan Teasdale on the West Coast.
Such a hard life having to cancel your show and going to sleep at midnight and not waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning to do a thing with fucking Navarro. God.
Oh, Dan. It's good to have you on.
Dan Teasdale, formerly of Harmonix and Twisted Pixel, and now of No Goblin. That's right?
That's right.
Which is your new studio. How is that going?
That is going really well. Like we started in July. We moved up to Seattle and started up with all of the other Seattle ex-AAA developers starting indie studios, and we're cranking away on our first game, which is Roundabout. Buy now at roundaboutgame.com. And
good work.
Thanks. I learned it from Drake.
Yeah, he's good. Well, so Roundabout, just quickly to fill people in on those who are not aware of what Roundabout is, why don't you give them the brief synopsis, if there is such a thing you can actually do for that game?
Absolutely. It's Roundabout is the 1977 rise to fame story of Giorgio Manos, who was the world's first revolving chauffeur.
Okay.
So in Roundabout, you play as him. He's driving a limousine that's constantly spinning around, and you're in an open world. And you're picking up passengers, you're going through and picking up collectibles. It's basically if you took Crazy Taxi and merged it with Tony Hawk and GTA and just mashed it all together, and this weird 70s limo spinning game came out. It has its roots in
Wow.
Kurokurokurin, if you know if you've played Kurokurokurin on the GBA,
right.
It's like it has its roots in that, but somehow less crazy because it's not a bird piloting a rotating stick. It's a little more grounded, but it's been really
little
fun.
more.
But it's been pretty fun so far. Like I was expecting, like going into this, I was expecting, okay, we're a small studio, this is going to be hell, we're going to have to crunch on our first game, it's going to be terrible, but it's actually been pretty easy so far. Like, I don't see why all these other indies are complaining about making games easy now.
Dan Teasdale always be trolling everywhere he goes.
So what do you mean by we? How many folks are you involved with?
So full-time, it's me and Panzer, who is also ex-Harmonix as well. Then we have 3 other people who are doing sort of part-time outsource work to sort of get us over the line. So it's a small team, and we've got a pretty aggressive timeline. Like, we're coming out 2014, which is very soon.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's weird going into that. It's weird going into that sort of mindset and like being like rushing from the start and like having everything work out. Like, I'm so used to things just like collapsing and then trying to scramble things to ship to a deadline. But so far things are good, which is nice. Which means that next week everything's going to fall apart. But for now, things are good.
Where did the primary inspiration for this game come from? Like, you cited the gameplay, inspirations there, and those are all pretty damn good ones. But like, where did the whole revolving limousine thing come from?
I think a lot of it was like I was taking from Kurokuro, and then I was trying to think of like what could be more sane than the bird in a flying stick.
Right.
I was like, the first thing that kind of came up in my brain was like, limousine is long and it's a car, so try that, But
a lot of thought went into it then.
yeah, no, I mean, months of research and soul searching. I wanted to invoke the spirit of limousine driving. It really just was as simple as that to start off with, but then everything just started layering on top of that. Like, I wanted to make a game in the 70s for like the longest time because like no one's explored that. And
it's a good decade.
It's a really good decade, and we're in '77, which is like Star Wars, Bowie, like just like it's the perfect '70s.
So you're licensing all that stuff, right?
Yeah, with a huge independent budget, we're licensing Star Wars. Is just going to be playing on a small theater screen that you can't see because it's top down. It's going to be brilliant.
Man, they'll just give that shit to anyone nowadays.
Yeah, no, George Lucas called me up and said, I don't own this stuff anymore, but yeah, go for it.
Yeah, do what you want. Fuck it. Who cares?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So is it a little bit, strange? Like we just went through like these two next gen launches. Like you're off doing your own kind of tiny thing. Like the former studios that you worked at, both are working on some pretty early next gen stuff. Is it nice to be sort of out of all of the bullshit that goes into a lot of that, or now that it all kind of passed by, like is there any twinge of jealousy that you would have been a part of some of the madness?
I think for a launch title, like there's a huge chunk of jealousy that I did not ship a launch title or like work on a launch title, because I think for any dev, like just being there on day one is like such a huge like accomplishment. Like you go and buy the box and you can buy your game, and like it's like the perfect ecosystem to sell your game. Like it's perfect, but at the same time, like I'm glad I didn't have to ship a launch title and deal with like TCRs going everywhere and like just all that craziness. Yeah, I miss that sometimes, but at the same time, like that'll be us in 6 months' time. We'll be doing like press tour for Roundabout, and I'll have to annoy you guys again, and get into that sort of cycle of like we're about to ship. Everyone, give me all this feedback about this game, and like get that sort of high from shipping a game.
Now, to be fair, Teasdale, you are responsible for 2013's most important mobile video game, Super
true.
Drake Tracker. How is that doing for you? Are you rolling in millions now? How is the Diet Coke pipeline going? Like, how is that all working out for you right now?
Unfortunately, that is going really well.
Okay.
I wish it wasn't. We have Men of Game Dev, which was one of the Kickstarter awards from that, is now fully spun off, and that's actually a No Goblin production now. It's all set up to go through that for taxation and all that business stuff. So, menofgamedev.com, $15 by your calendar. But yeah, we're going to do that again next year, which will be really awesome. But yeah, Drake Tracker people are still donating Diet Coke money. I don't know why. Stop it. The joke is done. I don't know. We might do like one or two more things later, but like I think the joke has reached its peak. I think we are done with Super Drake Tracker 2000 DX.
One might argue that joke reached its peak some time ago, but it continues.
One may argue it reached its peak, say, 2 minutes into the presentation at PAX East.
Yeah, that's distinctly possible.
We kept going.
But yet it is endured. Unbelievable. All right.
I am very thankful that there are so many people who love dumb things to allow me to make this and to allow me to ship an Ouya game. So thank you.
And somehow we have managed to collect them all under this umbrella of Giant Bomb community. It's like we're a weird magnet for people who just like the dumbest things possible.
Yeah.
It's
so
amazing.
yeah, thank you. You as a community, you are the greatest assholes I could ever be kind of remotely associated with.
They are. I'm sure they are very happy to oblige you.
Although it is kind of funny, how many tools are now available to allow a joke like that to go as far as it can go. Like you got to publish on Ouya. Like that's ridiculous. That whatever you think about Ouya as a platform and all sorts of other stuff like that. Like it's published somewhere. Like and you can get it on your phone. Like that's pretty cool.
Like it's ridiculous how much like Unity supports that with like they have like the asset store where you can just like press a button and like you have IAPs and you can purchase stuff, or you press a button and you get like a full animation system. It's like this is blowing my old man game developer brain, but at the same time it's like it allows you to go too far on this stuff, as we saw with Drake Tracker. Like we got to the point where they have Unity support for all console platforms now. It's like, what if we put Drake Tracker on Vita as a stretch goal, and like, it's like the other Adam Boy's like, could we do this? It's like, well, I guess we could do this. It's like, no, stop, we can't. No, this is crossing a line.
Please tell me no. Just say no.
It is possible. Like, with No Goblin is a registered PlayStation developer, I could press the button in Unity that pushes it out, but no, it will. We have no more platforms for Super Drake Tracker. That's it. We're done with the 9 or whatever we have now.
Was I mean, like, sort of like stepping on it. Like, I imagine at Harmonix and Twisted Pixel, you guys probably used like probably a lot of proprietary in-house development software. Are you doing that kind of stuff with No Goblin, or are you using like a lot of the off-the-shelf stuff now that it's like really matured?
No, we're all Unity now. It's like, yeah, like Harmonix was like their custom beat match engine that they built for 10 years, and Twisted Pixel had Beard, which I actually like Beard a lot. Like, it's not the most best looking engine in the world, but to make stuff in it, it's super quick. But Unity is just like this extra level above it in terms of just like how quickly it is to get stuff working. Like the big example I used when we launched Roundabout was our road system. So I worked on Destroy All Humans, which was kind of like a similar like sort of building system where we had like roads and traffic and things like that. And our programmer on that spent like a month building this road system out of splines and stitching it into the terrain. And for us, I went to the asset store and pressed a button for splines, and then half an hour later we had a road system. It's just like, it doesn't. I think it's unfair in a way that AAA is still stuck with shitty tools, because all of the Unity stuff is just ridiculously quick to get stuff going.
Yeah, there was I did a feature on these two brothers that they developed a game together for something close to 10 years, and they built their own tools, and everything was very specific to what they wanted to accomplish. And then by the time they put it out, I think it was earlier this year, it's this game called Ring Runner. Mm-hmm. They were starting to look at what they wanted to build for their next game, so they thought, well, these tools are so specific, we can't really use this for the next project. Why don't we see what's going on in Unity? And as an experiment, he tried to build the old game in Unity and was able to get a pretty rudimentary version of it up and running in about a week.
Yeah, it's crushing. It's soul crushing. Like, as someone who's learned this skill set for 15 years, now that's useless. I mean, I'm kind of overstating, but like, it's really nice, like, being able to just like have a 2-person team and be able to outsource some of this stuff and like build a game that like looks pretty decent and like it's fun, and like I can focus on like iterating on mechanics and stuff and not have to worry about spending 6 months to wait for a system to come online.
It seems like it's definitely sort of living up to one of the things that's been talked about for a couple of years now, of like, you know, rather than there being this sort of like B tier of like AAA games, it seems more like the downloadable games or the independent games are just kind of rising up and getting more impressive as it becomes easier, you know, and more efficient to make games of that caliber.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, as someone in that, it's super scary because like we're now competing against, you know, 1,000 IGF nominees and like 500 people going through Greenlight every year and all that kind of stuff. So it's all scary for us, but at the same time, like, I'm not competing with 5 other spinning limousine games. Like, it's just us. We have a unique hook. We can push it. Like, it opens it up enough that I think it counteracts the sort of saturation that's going on.
Yeah, that's been like a big conversation that's been happening in the past couple of weeks in sort of the independent community of, you know, things like getting on Steam used to be a guarantee of sort of quality or otherwise you were going to sell games, and that's, you know, with so many, you know, 100 games through Greenlight getting approved every couple of weeks, that's just really not the case anymore.
Yeah, and Steam is itself, for some reason, is now the hardest platform to get on. Like, it's this weird, bizarro world where I can ship the Wii U is like the easiest platform to get on out of all of the platforms we're on, and Steam is like.
I don't believe you.
No, like literally, like I signed up for the thing, like they have a site page on the site, and then like a week later I got a phone call. It's like, hi, this is such and such from Nintendo. So what game do you want to make? It's like, oh, it's this game about a guy in a limousine that spins around. It's like, great, we'll give you dev access here, and you're a Nintendo developer now. It's like, awesome, that's great. Maybe we'll ship for Wii U now. I don't know. But Steam is like, I mean, Alex, you probably remember this from the Rock Band Network days, but with Greenlight, it's kind of all the problems we had with the Rock Band Network, but now with people's lives on the line. Like, it's an insular community. I mean, I'm not saying insular is a negative. I'm saying insular is like, it's hard to get new people into it because of the amount of work to like get people to vote on a game. So it's this community voting on the same things. And because we can't just send a link to someone because you have to sign into Steam and authenticate with Steam Guard and go to this thing and it's all buried away, we can't really bring new people in to that community or like introduce them to Greenlight. So for us, like, we did a lot of Greenlight pimping at the start, and like we have a huge banner at the bottom of the page, and I've been annoying people on Twitter about it for a month, but like, we're really not seeing that much of a bump from any of that stuff. Like, we did Greenlight Gaming, which is like this awesome Greenlight focused site, and it's just impossible to sort of move that needle in ways that that would make me comfortable in saying that we can have Steam for ship. But maybe we'll win the Greenlight lottery. Looking at like our graph and stuff, like, it looks like we'll be greenlit by the time that we ship, but like, I can't guarantee that.
So would you say that things like the Steam Greenlight situation and what you've learned from doing stuff like Rock Band Network is that democratizing platforms is a gigantic mistake that no one should ever do?
Yes, extremist Alex Navarro. No, I think it's...
But there's no room for shades of gray here. It's a yes or no kind of thing.
Yeah, we are all going to die. Let's scoop out our brains. No, it's one of those things that I think if you're going to have the ability for the community to vote on games, you need to make that friction as low as possible. Like, basically the pipeline needs to be, I can post a link on Twitter, and then someone can click that and it counts. Or like, I click that and I type in my email and it counts. Whereas with RBN, it was you have to be part of the creators club and go through this flow, and they get 8 votes, and you had like EMI being unable to ship songs. Whereas, and with Greenlight, it's kind of the same problem. Like, you have to, like I was saying before, you click on the link, it takes you to a web page. The web page doesn't take you to Steam, so you go to Steam, and then you click on Steam Greenlight and go and search for the game. And it's like, at that point, I've lost like 90% of the people who'd vote for our game.
Yeah, I think the spirit of that stuff is obviously in the right place. It's just that no one's found a good way to make that, that voting and that democratization process streamlined in a way where it actually makes sense and it actually gets the, like, it actually has the intended effect. Because even with like you said, with the Rock Band Network stuff, it was like a lot of times there were songs that you knew everybody wanted to play and they seemed basically ready. It was just getting people to actually do the things that were necessary to make those go through the pipeline was such a nightmare.
Like, we basically, for like, I'm in a band called Spec band. But
a collective of people who play musical instruments.
There were instruments there. Music came out at some point. But like, we basically, like, I'm not really that ashamed to say it. We basically faked our way through. Like, we basically found other people who were on the team with RBN memberships and got them to vote for our song because it was the only way to get our song through. And unfortunately, the people at Valve that I know won't take bribes, so I'm kind of stuck. But like, if anyone's going to fix this, it's Valve. Like, they have the resources, they have the want to keep their platform as open as the console platforms. Like, I think this is a problem that they have the resources to solve. So I'm not too negative about it. Like, Steam isn't evil. Like, I'm looking forward to being on there. We just need to wait for the process to evolve, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that, I mean, like anything, like when you open up the internet to comments and things like that, it's just, you want everyone to be able to participate. It's that when you do that, it comes with unintended consequences that you really just can't plan for or deal with until the problems are in front of you. And so it's like, they were never going to be able to roll out Greenlight and have it be a perfect service. They need to roll out Greenlight and then figure out the problems as they went along.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's just, they've run into a lot of really weird scenarios where, like some of the biggest challenges for Greenlight are when you have games that run into that, sticky, like, is it a game debate? And then when you give that over to a community that, is, I think the Steam community, by and large, is very game traditionalist in terms of, like, the genres they like, but that makes sense, right? Like, you vote for the things that you are kind of a known quantity. And so that when something sort of breaks your expectations or is different than what you expect, you're not going to necessarily be like, yeah, that's the game I want to vote for. And I think that's a very natural human tendency. But then how does a system account for sort of like the human psychology's inability to cope with the unknown when that's exactly what they're trying to sort of get onto the service by opening it up to everyone?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's especially how do you just remove that friction to allow the people who aren't, super hardcore Steam people to vote?
So, Alex, you have been writing you've been doing a lot of reviews.
I have been.
A lot of sports games up there. Our sports coverage during the live streams was let's say, well, let me give an example. When we played FIFA, and then Danny O'Dwyer pointed out to us the reason that we could not. The reason it ended in a tie of 0-0 was because every time we were kicking the ball, we were actually hitting the lob button.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that. I thought about texting one of you to maybe say something about that, but I thought it would be way more fun if I didn't.
Yeah, and you were right.
So yeah, that's something that I had trouble with a couple of times when I started playing messing around with FIFA. I didn't know what button did what, and unless you actually look at the instructions, because Lord knows no one's going to do that. I mean,
and there are no instruction manuals in these new this next gen Horizon we are on. It's just digital manuals now.
Yeah, so obviously don't look at the digital manuals. Keep the tradition going. But yeah, I've been playing a lot of sports games. There are reviews of Madden and NBA 2K up on the site, as well as Knack, which I also
loved. Box quotes are going to be all over that game from Alex.
Yeah. Yeah, that I think my favorite thing about that game thus far has been Hip Hop Gamer's reaction on Twitter, where he's just like, "Game reviews are not for gamers anymore. Knack is the best. It's awesome. 17,000 out of 5."
So I got a question for you guys about.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm stepping into dangerous territory here. I'm not up on all of the latest Twitter trends. Is Hip Hop Gamer like a real thing or an act?
He's a person.
He's a real
actually
guy.
The realist.
Wow.
I'm not even joking. He is exactly what he makes himself out to be.
That makes it oddly more awesome.
It is, he's very earnest.
Yes.
For obviously for better or worse, but he is absolutely he is who he is. He is very earnest, and he's like that way in person too. When he's walking around Ubisoft press conferences with a belt.
Gregarious is what I would describe him as.
I can't hate the guy. The guy's being himself, and he has certainly made a name for himself, which is more than. All sorts of people ask, like, how do you get into this? Well, some ways are you carry a championship belt, and you never stop doing that.
And you just never stop being excited about everything. Yeah, he's something else. So I got through those games. I've been playing a bunch of other stuff over the course of the weekend. I played some Mario, which we can talk about more, but that is really good.
It is really good.
I played through about 8 or 9 hours of Assassin's Creed 4. Which I have been enjoying quite a lot. I did not like 3 much at all. This one, just in terms of mission design and the sailing stuff and all the piratey shit, like everything they built that game around seems just way more exciting and interesting than anything really that was in 3. Which makes me wonder what the hell they were doing with 3. But this one is pretty great so far. I think I'm gonna try and get that one written up for this week because that game is pretty rad, and I think people should check that one out.
Well, the weird thing about the Assassin's Creed games is that they aren't as upfront as, let's say, Call of Duty. When you play Call of Duty, you get a logo up front, like, oh, this is an Infinity Ward one. Like every year we know who it's coming from, and Ubisoft has different teams. Obviously those are like commingling. They're like experts at sort of like flattening game development in a way, and so the 4 was made by a different team than 3, and they're all in different cycles, but it's kind of hard to keep track of what exactly that means. It's
super weird as well because 4 the ship sailing from 4 got ported to 3 before 4 was out from a different team, and I think it's Singapore doing this one, but I can't even keep track of who's on what anymore.
Well, apparently Singapore has a better eye for AC-style mission design than whoever it was that worked on 3, because 3, just 5 hours in, I was just like, I am done with this. So good on them for turning that one around, because I was kind of ready not to care about this one, but I've actually been weirdly into it. So
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the thing that I really liked about it is it doesn't have a 9-hour-long tutorial.
It's about a 5 or 6 hour long tutorial, but that still is an improvement.
Baby steps. You gotta reduce that down. But it's just I'm with you on this. I am loving Assassin's Creed 4. I actually, my Assassin's Creed 4 moment, which isn't really Assassin's Creed 4, is I bought it on PS4 and I have the Vita thing that I've been doing remote play, and I bought it on disc. And so one day I went to bed and I'll just do some collection stuff in AC4. And I realized I have Battlefield in the drive, and I am never buying a retail disc ever again because I'm too lazy to get up and change the disc.
Digital future, man. Is the digital future. Is you being able to lay in bed and do collection shit in AC4.
Yeah.
You have to tell me. You have to tell me what you think of NBA Live. Have you played NBA Live?
I've just barely dabbled with it. I have it on one platform. I don't have it on the other yet.
All right.
It does not leave a very good first impression. I will say that. I watched you guys play some, so I saw some of the same things that were driving me crazy. Were driving you crazy, so that at least made me feel better. But
it was hard because we're we're looking at this, and of course, Vinny and Jeff are just like, it looks like basketball. Seems fine. What's so bad about it? I was like, I'm sure there are tons of bad things about this. Also, we turned all the rules off, so that I'm sure
I saw that
help. But do you have any sense of what are those games sort of core problems? I mean, obviously, when you're issuing a letter from the developer saying we're going to patch in good graphics is not a good sign.
Yeah, the animation stuff is really wonky. Like the stuff, the things you were doing on the stream, where it's like you're doing the spin moves over and over and over again, and there's just no real transition between it at all. Just a lot of stuff like that. The player models look really funky, especially in comparison to what 2K is doing. Because that's what that game is a lot, is just incredibly good-looking player models. So putting NBA Live up against that seems almost unfair. And I don't know. I mean, it just doesn't seem like it has a whole lot to it. It seems like a game that they did not have as much development time on as they wanted to get a completely built from the ground up NBA experience going. So I need to spend a whole lot more hours playing it, which is really not something I wish I had to do, but that said, I've not enjoyed really any of what I've played of it thus far. So
it's like the knack of basketball games.
It's pretty close to it. Yeah, it's definitely the thing created to fill a specific spot in a roster, as opposed to a game that anyone seems like they really had any fun making or trying to make into something fun. So
you read that letter, right?
Oh yeah, and I mean, that's not something you ever want to have to say about a game you have just put out in stores. So
that letter is amazing, especially so if people aren't aware, on basically on launch day last Friday, EA Sports put out this really lengthy letter of apology from, I believe, the executive producer. Anyway, someone high up on the production of that game, basically apologizing, and not just apologizing, but in very specific terms, pointing out, this is what we know isn't working. This is what we know isn't working. We're going to work on this and this and this. And contrast that a letter that came out that very same day related to Battlefield 4, which also came out of Electronic Arts, apologizing for that game's sort of abysmal launch across all platforms. I think PS4 has had some of the worst problems, but it's been rough across the board. And that letter basically was like, oh, we're so happy with the launch of Battlefield 4. Here's double XP. I don't know. We'll get around to fixing it. And just basically ignored the problems because obviously that game is probably selling very well.
Right.
Whereas the NBA one was, in terms of corporate apologies, about as much as you can probably ask for, even if that doesn't put $60 back in the hands of people that paid for the game.
No, and they put that game out, I have the distinct impression, just because they wanted to have a starting point to build off of. They know they have a long way to go. They know they need to climb their way back into this race if they even can. But if they're going to, they have to have a starting point, and even that starting point kind of sucks. At least now they have a framework to spend the next year working on. Whereas before, it's like they'd been trying to get a game out for 3 years and just couldn't make it happen. So, at least that first step, that one horribly painful broken leg step is now, is out there, and they can kind of work off of that.
Dan, I'm curious, obviously, I'm not insinuating that you've ever shipped a game on the level of NBA Live, but is there something to that idea of, you can get so insular in making a thing that you can almost kind of make it worse in the process, as opposed to just getting it out there and then going from there?
Absolutely. I'm a man who has worked on Trains, the model train simulator, and so I'm no stranger to terrible games. But yeah, when you're developing a game, you don't really have a sense of how people are going to respond to it. Our Rock Band stuff is an awesome example of that. We built a lot of stuff in that game for the idea that people would not buy full band bundles and that they would get together at a certain time every night to play the game. And that's just wildly wrong. We sold too many bundles, and everyone got together and had living room nights, and all of the online stuff basically never got touched. But we had online bands that had rosters and all of these crazy support infrastructure, but just was never needed. So in a sense, like we didn't know how people would react to it, so we probably shouldn't have spent. I know this sounds terrible, but we probably shouldn't have spent that much time building out the online infrastructure for that game. But at the same time, like, there's a limit to how much you can roll that back. Like, it sounds like on the NBA Live level, like, that's just a bad game. Like, there's not a case of, like, they misjudged, I don't know what you misjudge in a basketball game, how people would react to it, like, too many basketballs. I don't know. I'm not an American. I don't know your sports.
Too many basketballs. That would be the we apologize. We put 2 basketball. We gave a basketball to each team when they play. I don't know how we missed that one. We'll patch that out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, is there like some Aussie rules footy analogy you can make? Is there like an Ashes reference you can make? Is there some cricket stuff going on there that you want to talk about?
Ashes Cricket is 2013, comes out this week, I believe, on Steam. If you want to play a very slow 5-day-long game.
Is that an EA Sports Jam, or is that what is that?
Oh god, it's like a 505 thing, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, quality games.
Yeah, known for their sports franchises, certainly.
Yeah, but like my American football experience is I got a free copy of Madden at some point from EA, and I tried playing an hour of it, and my experience of American football is basically there's some running, and then at the end they do a dance routine for some reason, and that's football. My Madden experience was everyone would line up. It would present me with like 50 million plays for some reason. I don't know. And then I would go, and then I'd immediately dive to the ground. And I don't know what I was doing, but like for an entire game, it was like, okay, here's the strategy. Here's just go down on the ground, and then the other team won. But so
in certain pockets of the NFL, that strategy might actually work.
Like now that I'm in Seattle, I'm gonna try and get into like this whole Seahawks thing, since it appears to be consuming this town. But I am not your American sports go-to here, I'm afraid.
Fair enough. Well, I know you got next-gen consoles as well. I've been playing some other stuff. I played some Need for Speed. I played some Forza. I tried to play Need for Speed, actually, but I couldn't get online with anyone because the servers were so broken over the weekend. What have you been playing on your next-gen consoles, Dan Teasdale? What has been interesting to you?
I have also been playing Forza, and you are on my friends list, and you are an asshole.
So are you. You're a total dick.
Are you saying your drivatars are assholes?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's actually this weird thing, and I don't want to stereotype here, but ignoring you, all of the press that are on my list are the easiest people to pass. And all of the dev friends I have are just complete assholes, like running me off the road. I wish that when you took photos in that game, it kept the gamer tags up, because I just have tons of great shots. Like, I'm just driving along, and then there's 3 cars in front of me just crashing into each other with sparks flying everywhere.
It's beautiful.
I've been cursing your name a lot, essentially. So it's the same as all the other days in my life.
I don't take any shit.
I've been playing a lot of TV,
Okay.
Xbox TV. I was skeptical going into it, but then I had the moment yesterday where I walked into my living room and said Xbox on, and then my amp and my cable box and my TV all turned on, and everything rose up at once, and now I am in the future. Now
Was there like a choir of angels behind it? Was it just like a beautiful, miraculous moment?
It may as well have been. It is the next generation arrived. Like, on the achievement saying I'm arrived in the next generation. But those voice commands. Like, it's only like 4 voice commands, but like those 4 are enough to push me over and have it hooked up to my cable box.
Yeah, I messed with that all yesterday. I was playing. It's kind of like jumping in between playing Rise and then also watching football games, and the ability to play Rise and then say, Xbox Snap TV and watch, when the commercial break is going to be over, so that I could just, turn the TV full screen again and go back to the game. Like, there are things that it didn't work that well. Like, I probably had my speakers too close to the Kinect, so sometimes it wasn't picking up the voice command, so I had to mute the speakers. And then also when you have the TV snapped in, it tries to dynamically alter the volumes of both, as opposed to just letting you mute one or the other. So there's all these little weird things they kind of that are so obvious that it seems pretty clear they'll fix them hopefully pretty soon. But just when it did work, like, I saw a glimpse of how this whole ecosystem could hopefully eventually start working, and it was really neat. Like, I am someone that watches a decent amount of live TV and has a cable box, and that may not be so every gamer, but I am that person that also kind of like crosses in both worlds, and it was really neat. Like, and it was the thing that impressed, sort of normal people the most when I was able to do that stuff and pass the controller around and have people playing Rise, and then without asking them to have to do anything with the controller, I could just yell at the Kinect and get the game to come back up. And then have my actual Rise game paused and not have to worry about what that save was because it was already, save stated, and I could just transition back to that. It was pretty neat. It didn't work 100% of the time, but it worked enough that I'm confident it seems to be mostly a software issue in terms of figuring out how to make that stuff work better.
Yeah, there's enough of that magic there that I have hope. Like, I don't think that hope will last 8 years if it's like this, but like I have enough hope that they will be able to like refine out, like, being able to mute a snap thing or being able to view an achievement without jumping through 3 separate apps. Like, hopefully they will fix that at some point. Like, and it's enough for me to believe, I guess.
I think the one thing I'm really hoping they fix, and they probably won't, but it's something I would really like, is that it would be nice if the voice stuff had some kind of voice recognition attached to it. Because, god damn it, if when I was watching the live stream, if every time Jeff said Xbox, my Xbox did not start fucking wigging out and doing crazy shit.
Yeah.
Just because I happened to be sitting 10 feet away from the stream, I had to turn it down to almost mute, because otherwise it would make it go insane. It would be really nice if you could like voice identify a little bit so that it would know to listen for your commands and not just any asshole who might be on a live stream somewhere trying to break your shit.
And that seems like an easy case to solve as well, right? You have the voice coming in from the Xbox. Like, you can intercept that stream and say, this is stuff that is happening in the game. Like, it seems like it should be like a no-brainer to say, if it's coming from inside the house, ignore it, essentially.
Yeah.
It was pretty amazing when I think I mentioned, like, someone tweeted at me, like, when we were saying Xbox on the stream, that it was affecting, those people who already managed to get Xbox Ones. And then, of course, there was like a slight twinkle in Jeff's eye as he realized he could go Xbox turn off, yes, and then in that one fell swoop turned off like what seemed to be at least maybe 100 Xbox Ones because it actually traveled through and did that. And that is definitely one use case where it's like, if you are watching a stream through your machine, like, it's got to be able to say, like, just ignore that audio data. But again, that's all software side. Like, I feel pretty confident in terms of, it's pretty snappy, and what it does pick up on, it does pick up on pretty well. And the only problems I do have with it is just like the rule set for accessing things is so rigid. Like, there's just no natural language interpretation at all. Like, to the point that, like, when I say. When I was turning the Xbox off last night, I said, okay, Xbox turn off, and then it asked you to say yes, and I just said yep, and it interpreted that as a no. And it's like, it should know yes, yeah, yep, and hopefully that's just a matter of having to gather data, which is basically just, that's why Google is so powerful, is like you have so much access to user data and sort of natural language implementation that hopefully, I'm okay with the Kinect gathering that stuff, because it should hopefully make it be able to know more of that stuff in the future if it just has hundreds of thousands of people talking to it, and then it can start figuring out how all that stuff works.
Yeah, I think a lot of the rigidity comes from, if it's, I haven't messed around with the Xbox One stuff, but if it's like the 360 Kinect stuff, a lot of it comes from having to like literally define everything so that it can work out where the overlaps are. So it seems like it could benefit from like a Google or a Mechanical Turk solution, where it's like, this is like the pool of what everyone says to try and get in. Now just don't care about how strict it is. Just do it. Do something. Yeah.
Yeah, like when I say Xbox open Netflix, like that should work just as well as Xbox go to Netflix. Like, and I know why it doesn't do that now, but if this is gonna go beyond me just being kind of impressed at launch that it works when it does work, to something I'm going to use every day and should sort of like get over that hump of feeling weird when you're talking to your TV. Like, it's got to be good enough that, like, I can leave it with other people and not have to like write down, here's what you have to say to the Xbox to get it to work. Because if you're going to plug it into your box, you can't spit out 2 signals. So it's like I had it connected through component and HDMI. The HDMI was going to my Xbox, the component was going to the TV, and if you choose any one of those, it's not going to spit out the other one. So it's not like I can keep it connected so that my wife can use it with just like the normal remote. Although I guess you can use the cable remote with it once you get to the TV section. But I don't know. It works well enough, but I'm choosing to be hopeful that it will work a lot better, in the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Am I an asshole for not setting up the TV stuff at all? Like, I have a TiVo. I have an HD TiVo, and I already run stuff through that. I'm like wary to run it through more cables to try and make stuff happen. Like, would you say it's worth me getting over whatever dumb hump I have and actually trying it out and seeing if I can make it work?
Well, no, TiVo has a pretty decent system, right? Like, TiVo has a pretty great interface. Like, part of the reason I like the Xbox stuff is not that I get to say Xbox Rewind when there's a cool catch. It's that I'm getting a non-shitty Comcast interface for the first time in my life.
Right.
And the Comcast interface is complete garbage. So
it is.
Like the very basic interface design that Microsoft has put into it is at least a little bit nicer than what I deal with on a daily basis. And hopefully they can fix the DVR stuff, or at least tap into that at some point. But even just not dealing with what Comcast has gotten incredibly lazy about in terms of interface design is an improvement. But if you have TiVo, I think you would want to wait to see if they have a little bit better integration going forward, probably.
That was kind of my thinking as well. So thank you for reassuring my my skepticism.
Yeah. I should as we head towards the end of the show, if people have questions for Dan or ourselves, shoot it off in the chat, and I will start paying attention to that. I don't know, Dan, have you been playing any other games of note lately?
I have a confession to make. I may have started playing World of Warcraft again. I'm sorry.
What?
I'm sorry. I watched the BlizzCon thing. It got me excited again. I'm getting my character sorted out. I'm sure this will only last like a month, and then I'll stop and I'll pick it up again for the expansion. But yeah, I'm relapsed.
When was the last time you played before this?
Last time I played before this would have been the last expansion.
Okay.
I played a bunch of Pandaria, and then I took a break for a couple of months, and then I hit the cap and did a bunch of raids, and then I took a break again.
I did 2 brief dive-ins after the first 2 expansions, and then I have not touched it since then. So this new one, the new graphics and all the stuff they were talking about sounded kind of cool, but I think I'm going to keep resisting for the time being, at least as long as I can.
Here's the thing that brought me back into Pandaria, and that is that it's a Pokemon MMO now.
Okay.
You can go through and you can collect pets like Pokemon, and you can battle them like Pokemon, but it's an MMO.
Yeah, you know what? If I was able to keep myself from playing more actual Pokemon, then I think I can keep myself from playing World of Warcraft Pokemon. I can do that.
Okay. I do not have your strength.
Okay.
But besides that, I've kind of been all next gen stuff. I've been playing a lot of stuff for 5 or 10 minutes. I played Resogun for 5 minutes. That seems cool. Played Zoo Tycoon for 10 minutes and recorded the best video I will ever record in Zoo Tycoon of me just doing donuts in the elephant cart. Xbox, record that genius.
Someone was telling me that they in Zoo Tycoon, for some reason, they were doing something. I don't know much about that game. I don't know what the setup was, but apparently they were doing something where they were able to sort of walk around in the park and just take a lot of pictures of kids. And they were being really creepy, walking around taking pictures of kids, and that people it just was that was allowed, something you were allowed to do in that game.
That's creepy. Is this someone you, Alex? Is this you?
No, this is someone who works at another outlet that shall remain unnamed. I will leave it at that. But
GameBomb.ru is
Zoo Tycoon. All right, I've heard that. I heard that was one of the actual jams of the Xbox One launch. People have had mostly nice things to say about that game.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to diving into that a bit more. And then everything else, I picked up Space Engineers on Steam, which still very early and not $15 worth yet, but hopefully it'll get there at some point.
Sure.
But yeah, besides that, then it's just been waiting for launch and then having way too many games to play, and now I have to sort of find time for Zelda and Mario and Tearaway and the 80 other games that came out this week.
Yeah, I'm saving the handhelds for travel next week.
Yeah, and those are all really, really, really goddamn good games. I think I said the end of our Xbox One stream, I feel like those 2 streams, all they did was tell me you should go buy a Wii U and a 3DS and Zelda and Mario, which is not to take away from some of the decent stuff that is there at launch for either of those machines, but that doing that would probably be cheaper and a better use of your time, because both of those games seem really, really damn good.
Oh God, Mario's so good.
It is really good.
What are you
It's
doing?
So good.
So yeah, Roundabout's delayed to 2015 for some unknown reason.
A lot of people are asking. I don't think we are going to have anything interesting to say. I think people will have to probably wait for the Bombcast. But Persona 5 was announced over the weekend. The new Atlas RPG, the sequel to the really popular. That series has gained a lot of steam in the last 5-10 years. I didn't play Persona 4. I don't think anyone here has, right?
I've spent a little time with it, but I have not sunk nearly the hours I would need to have like a serious, strong opinion about that game.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I did like 4 hours on my Vita, and then I realized it's a JRPG, which isn't really my thing, and then I kind of fell off.
So too many smart people that I have a lot of respect for really, really like that game in a non-ironic way, which means I sort of feel like I need to play Persona 4 at some point. So I'm glad that Persona 5 is not coming till next winter. So if that, and that's Japan, so I have
and
to
your
assume,
PS3 at that.
Yeah, it's for coming for PS3, which we all kind of knew. Atlas tends to try and reach not only the broadest audience possible, but also doesn't rush to next generation hardware. I mean, they basically made Catherine as a way of getting their toes wet for Persona 5, and I really liked Catherine for all of its problems. So I probably will play Persona 4 Golden, which I do have on this Office Vita I have kicking around, and the cold winter months that are upon me, once I'm past Game of the Year.
Yeah.
That seems to make a lot of sense for like January and February, when I'm just going to be spending a whole lot more time indoors. So
sure,
I will publicly say I am intending to play Persona 4, but if you were looking for expert analysis on Persona 5, you probably won't get that here or the Bombcast, but you won't
get something close to it on the Bombcast.
Yeah, you won't even get the bare minimum here.
You'll get Jeff being really excited, and probably Vinny being really excited too.
Yeah, but it seems people are really psyched for that, so that's awesome. And they announced also like a dancing game and like 2 other games.
There's the fight. Yeah, there's like that fighting game or whatever. Or is there another fighting game? I can't remember if it's the same or just another one. But
I think it might be just like a Super Street Fighter equivalent,
right.
Sort of thing. And there's a rhythm game, and there's a lot. They're really going for it on this next Persona. They are going to. You're going to get your Persona 5, but it seems like before you get that, you're going to get a whole lot of other Persona before that. So.
Personae.
I thought what was also interesting, because we've talked a little about user-generated content, was this whole people using the PlayStation 4's Playroom app, which is meant to just be sort of a fun webcam interface thing, but they also allow you to stream to Twitch on it, and it started out great. Oh, my dog always signals the end of the show by barking. It started out very innocently, where there's this thing called the Spartan Show, which was this husband and wife couple, very nice. They were just streaming out of the Playroom. The guy had shown off this little DualShock 4 mod that he had, and it started gaining steam. People were looking to it on Twitter, and then it got to Reddit and GAF and all these other different places. And Sony's Adam Boyes called in, and then I called in. And it was a ton of fun. Like I called in just to encourage them to try and calm their nerves, as like the number just kept creeping up over and over. I think they went to something like 6,000 viewers over the course of like a 7-hour stream. It was really cool. Like, and it was this moment where it's like, for all the stuff we get caught up with like what defines next gen, it was watching these people just sort of get caught up in a storm and be really genuine about it was like, man, that's cool. Like that, to me, that is what sort of epitomizes what is possible with a lot of this new tech that's been quickly took involved, let's say, nudity that was not voluntary, involved with folks who had too much to drink. And it's quickly led to a lot of conversations about what might happen. I'm curious to see if Sony overreacts, because obviously bad people are going to do bad things with potentially good things all the time. Like the internet, again, will be the internet, but hopefully they don't go too far in sort of cracking down on this stuff, because I think they have a really good thing going, and they probably just need to have some new mechanisms in place to deal with people that use content inappropriately.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing that always happens when you give people more access and more ways to sort of, to play around with these devices. You give them these apps and these functionalities and these technologies to do kind of whatever they want with this stuff, but you don't necessarily think too far ahead about how it might go horribly, horribly wrong. Dan, I know this was something that we talked a lot about at Harmonix, like when we were coming up with more and more things for ways for people to do things online, and so a lot of the community stuff, and we also had to think ahead. Well, how could this be abused? When you're thinking about this kinds of stuff, like how far ahead do you generally find yourself having to think about, like how far down the rabbit hole people can really fuck this up?
Not at all.
Okay.
No, but usually in all of the cases that we've had it's always been a publisher or a first party. It's like, you should probably figure out how people are going to draw a penis in note charting. And it's like, oh, well, I guess you can do it with 5 lanes and a bunch of gems. I guess we'll need to figure out something. But a lot of us, and I imagine the Playroom guys as well, we kind of rely on the platform holders to be able to mediate all of that stuff. They have all the infrastructure for child accounts and for being able to take down content and all of that kind of stuff. So for us to duplicate that, unless we're doing something that's its own platform, it's better for them to take care of it than for us to take care of it. Obviously, we shouldn't encourage it. So, we're not going to put dick stamps in our stamping game, for example. But at some point, you just need to focus all of that mediation and moderation in one point rather than doing it crappily in 3 different places.
So wait, in the Rock Band stuff, can you not make a dick? Did you guys actually accommodate for that?
I can't remember now. I remember it was an awkward meeting with Microsoft where we were all in Redmond, and they're like, "Well, how are you going to stop swastikas from appearing in the game?" It's like, "Well, it's a music game." It's like, "Well, you can just chart out green to orange and do this pattern here in the note chart." It's like, fuck. And so I think a lot of it was. I think that's a lot of the reason we went with all the XNA pipeline stuff was it's just they can pull down content, they can remotely pull down content on the 360, all of these ridiculous things that they've built out this team of enforcement to do, and so it's nice not being able to have to worry about that. I think if I was on the Microsoft side or the Sony side and I had to deal with how I was going to moderate millions of people, all of which can be dicks at any point in time, it's this impossible problem that you just have to try and find ways to deal with.
And now we're going to find out that in Roundabout, all the patterns you do in the game are actually just make dicks and swastikas. The rotation patterns are purely built on that. Oh
yeah, no, I'm making the first all dick game essentially. It's
excellent.
You just spin and it's next.
Now you have my attention.
Yeah, it's one of those things that also it's not like. In the case of the streaming stuff, the platform holders aren't, they're not the ones that are hosting this. They're offloading this to outside services, which I think makes it a little bit stranger because it's, I guess Sony would be in control of Playroom where they could patch out the ability to stream out from that. But, people will find ways to do the exact same thing in other ways. There's only so many ways that you can kind of you can stop people from doing that, and hopefully, it'll just be worked out the way it's worked out in the past, where Twitch has to, uphold its terms of service. This stuff isn't allowed, and they're very strict about what non-game stuff they allow because it kind of has to be game related. It can be just people talking, but hopefully, what ends up happening is just probably Sony gets maybe a little bit better filters in place for what shows up in the PS4 streaming stuff. When it shows you what streams you can watch. And hopefully they just, Twitch. A lot of it goes on Twitch. Twitch is a service that's not super terrific. It just happens to be in the right place at the right time.
It's the Netflix of game streaming.
Yeah.
It is, but yeah, Netflix seems a little more reliable, even when it was starting to scale. And Twitch was having trouble scaling even before it had millions of console users getting ready to use it. I
just mean as a company. I mean,
sure,
they're a company that was there and they had the right service. It's just that they have never actually been that good.
Yeah, I mean, you look at like Twitch's iOS app, like even their apps in general there's no ubiquity there, and that's really frustrating. It's caused a lot of problems with even the stuff that we do when we have premium members, which I don't think you can watch through the Twitch app on an iOS device or an Android device, and I don't think this will be the last time we hear of people being awful as they try and figure out ways of finding a balance between that stuff, but. It's not easy. I think that's been a running theme of a couple things we've talked about this morning of just when you open it up to people, people are going to take it to the worst possible place until you can find controls that sort of keep them from surfacing at least.
Yeah, people are jerks.
Yeah, big surprise. I mean, the Xbox ran into this really early on with Uno, right? Like if you remember, like the Uno had all those problems with people using the webcam to show their dicks. Speaking of dicks, all the time. Like that was like the first thing people did was just try and gross other folks out with nudity, and yeah, it's not an easy problem to solve because unless you're going to program your machine to recognize dicks, which is a pretty funny thing.
It should do that. Instant dick recognition.
That's probably someone's full-time job right now. Is like they're making a thesis on how to recognize dicks.
All right. Well. Dan, why don't you tell people, because you can buy your game right now, right? Like you can't play it, but you can buy it to get into to an early version, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So on roundaboutgame.com, we have a humble widget where you can buy the game. When it ships, it's going to be $15. You can buy it now for $10. Just to you're buying sight unseen, so I may as well give you a discount. You can also vote for it on Steam Greenlight to give my Greenlight pitch to try and see if anyone will actually vote for it there. And also. I should probably mention, because I have an entire supply of them right here, I still have Men of Game Dev calendars left if you want to buy Men of Game Dev calendars at menofgamedev.com. You have some incredibly sexy shirtless programmers and artists for your wall. I think that's all of the things I can pimp out, I guess, unless you just want to give me money, like give you my PayPal address.
No, that'll be okay, Dan. Thank you very much. So why don't you tell people what platforms it's coming out on and when Roundabout is coming out?
Yes, I shall do that. Roundabout 2014, personal computers and video game consoles of the next generation persuasion.
Excellent. Thanks for coming on, Dan.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Alex, what are you up to this week?
What am I up to? I am going to try and finish AC4, which we'll see if I get that done before Thursday when I'm flying back out to California. I'm probably trying to play some more NBA Live in there too, though other than that, just playing more Mario, playing more Forza, just trying to, I just started in on Dead Rising 3, which I have too, which I haven't touched yet, and then I'll have those handheld games for me on the trip at least, so Tearaway and Zelda. What do you got going on?
Well, I'm headed to Omaha, Nebraska tomorrow for Thanksgiving stuff, so I'll be out of the woodwork pretty quickly, but I have to play through Super Mario 3D World all over again because which is not the worst of punishments, but my save did not come over from the work Wii U, so all of that work I put into to trying to catch all those stars, all for naught. I mean, it's for the review, but It is kind of a bummer to realize I for a hot second thought about bringing my Wii U with me to San Francisco because I was pretty sure that I would be the one assigned to do that. So I probably should have asked before I went, so it could have just been on my machine, but oh well. So I'll be doing that, and I'll be playing Zelda, and I think I'm going to bring my Xbox and PlayStation 4 because I have in the past used my wife's family to what do you guys think of this stuff? It's always fun to get a response from folks that way. So we'll see how that stuff goes over, but otherwise, I guess we'll be off on Friday, so we will not have a show on Friday, but we'll return next Monday. But Dan, thanks again for joining us this morning and getting up early. And we'll see everyone next week.
Later on, guys.
Right. Thanks a lot.
Ow!